Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to Let's Chat Healing. 一起来疗愈. And today we have our Rowena as our guest today. And of course, this podcast is going to be in English once again. And maybe perhaps let's get started. Can we just get Rowena to share a little bit about your background?
Hi everyone. I'm Rowena Chu. I'm the founder of Real Ease, as well as a Spinal Flow Practitioner. I started my journey very much similar to Eugenia, doing tax and accounting as a professional. I spent about more than 16 years doing that, and I kind of started on my journey, I guess you could say, towards getting to know myself better, to look at ways from a more natural approach to things, because I was looking for something for myself, in a sense, because I was experiencing some stiff neck and shoulder pain and all that from working at a desk for long hours a day. But then that kind of veered off a little bit because I was looking for something to help my son, who was diagnosed with autism when he was 3+. So I went to a talk that talks about spinal flow. But then, even then, I was already kind of looking at natural alternatives for my son to kind of help him improve, in every areas of his life, right? Because at that time, he was verbal, I guess, but not very, in a way, being able to communicate very, very specific things like he wants. For example, I want this, I want that, but not conversational. And, like connecting with people wasn't difficult because eye contact issues and all that. So, so I was already, we were already seeing a naturopath and doing some kind of dietary intervention, as well as other kind of supporting stuff that's kind of similar to spinal flow and work on his nervous system to help calm his nervous system. So when I went for a retreat in Bali, and that was nice. And I put my husband along, and so it was kind of like a weekend thing for both of us. And I guess in a way, that was good for us from a very personal perspective, as well as a couple perspective as well, because having a child with special needs can be very stressful.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, as a person, as well as in our relationship, right?
Yes. A lot of times, right? I'm just interrupting a little. A lot of times, I do realize that people thought that the person with conditions are the one who needed the healing, but actually those who are taking care of those people are actually pretty much in need of healing as well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so that was good as in a time for ourselves. And once even after I've gone through experience spinal flow, I didn't really understand how it works, but it felt like it was something that resonates with me and what we've been doing with my son. So so we decided, both of us actually decided to attend the certification which was offered. So we took up learning about spinal flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long does it take for you to, between your certification to full-time involving in doing this as a living?
Well, I guess it depends on how fast you want to do it. You can
do it right away.
Yeah,
what about yourself?
Very quickly. or you could take some time because there are parts where you need to be there in person for hands-on training, as well as some online stuff that you need to go through. So for me, we completed it with, including the hands-on work on other people. About 1 year plus, 1 year, a quarter year maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. That's actually
Quite
considered short, to me, because it took me like almost before evolving to full time. Okay, like without like other jobs, it really took me like almost 11 years. But during the 11 years, I was working like as like a part-time or something like that. But just just a little like sidetrack a little.
Right.
So since you and I are on with the same background, as in we graduated as a finance students, and then we went to, I think, Big Four, right?
Yes.
And then we have like years of like working like a, I wouldn't call it like a slave, but it was really
quite
hard.
stressful,
It was a very stressful environment. So how, now that it's behind us, so how do you see those days now?
I can't really imagine going back to those days.
Same here.
Yeah, it's different because, at that time, like kind of both of us worked in Big Fours and also like for me, MNC as well. And so the money was pretty good, right? And when you come out and do your own thing, then there's a lot more uncertainty in terms of like financial. So initially it was like we were hardly making much at all. Yeah. And even now there are times when there are months where it's a bit slower and all that. So it's different. And in a way, it's been interesting for me. Like I find that I actually in the past, I actually spend a lot on things I don't really need. Right. So nowadays I kind of look at what I actually need, or is it really a want or a need kind of thing. Yeah. So I feel like it's a little bit more environmental friendly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also it's interesting to learn that you sometimes don't need so much to be happy.
Yes. Oh, that definitely, because I think during my that time, okay, when I was in corporate, I think one of the things that I like to do to de-stress is shopping, which is spending money. Like the more I spend, it's like every time when I'm so stressful or when I'm like, I finally met some deadlines, that's one thing that I rewarded myself.
Yeah, you feel like you have to reward yourself.
Yes, exactly. So it's sort of like a good form of de-stress, but sooner or later, I really do find out that although, because like the other day we were in a cafe, then you were talking about like how people get desensitized because while long-term being exposed in that sort of stressful environment, that people got desensitized, that they themselves are not realizing that they are in such a stress.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
And that actually happens to me until my body show me otherwise, like the pain, disease, illness, my sinus headache and stuff like that. So then only I realized that, I thought I wasn't stressed, but I was so stressed. Look at what my body is telling me. Yeah. So that I actually have a realization, but it doesn't, like, although there are many, many, many ways of de-stress, like yoga, meditation, but getting out from that environment, it helps. But what if, let's say, we are just exploring here. What if, like, we still need like accountants? Okay, we still need lawyers around. Definitely doctors as well, right?
Yes.
Is it possible? Do you think that it's possible that in future, if everyone knows how to de-stress, so that the working environment is no longer a stressful one, but more of like a stress-free environment, do you think that it's possible?
Well, Well, I think that's possible. Definitely. It really depends on the environment itself, whether it's just the work itself or other things, right? And I mean, a lot of my clients, that's what I try to teach them to do, to manage
their
that stress. Yeah, because I mean, I do help facilitate the body to be in a more balanced state to do what it already knows how to do, to heal itself, to repair, regenerate, and all that. But it is a partnership, right? And if they continue to do what they're doing, they will come back to the same place. It just,
it's just like fixing it and then you are repeating the same habit again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I also do think like being stressed is actually kind of like a habit because like for me in the past, right, I tend to realize that, oh my God, like I'm always putting myself in a stress mode because that's where I believe that it's the most effective and efficient way because your adrenaline will be pumped up and then suddenly you got this extra energy. Who knows where does it comes from? And then you just go all the way until your body told you otherwise, right? So I guess Spinal Flow actually does help people to de-stress.
Yes, exactly. So it's a very gentle modality. And although we look at the spine, we don't make any adjustments. Yeah, because we believe that the body can do that on its own, given it's the correct support.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there are so many ways to do that. You can do that via exercise. You can do that via controlling your food if you know what to do. Because sometimes you may try this and try that and try this, and you don't follow through and you don't see the results. So it's more like guiding them. And when I work with my client, I do look at the food they eat and the lifestyle, recommend lifestyle changes as well.
Okay. So it's like a very holistic way of a holistic approach to one's body.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
I think more than 5 years now.
Okay, so how do you find it like? What's your biggest takeaway?
For me, it's really more learning about myself, trusting myself, as well as trusting everything else around me. I feel like I'm more connected with myself in terms of mind, body, heart connection, as well as with the world, I guess. Being more trusting and less fearful. I think a lot of us unconsciously, like you say, the adrenaline, right? That's actually fear pushing you, right?
Exactly.
It's our stress response is actually a reaction to a potential threat. Or an actual threat. It could be a potential, it could be imagined. It could be like, you think you heard something, but it's not true. Or it could be, something like being caught, like crossing the road and you see a car coming. So that's like a real physical threat.
And imagining...
But it could be anything.
Yeah, but imagining that everyone in this currently who are working or in a survival mode, like, to make sure that they have money to pay the bills and etc. It feels like as if 24/7 they are facing a tiger or facing like some car coming to their way, right?
Yes.
So imagining that what it's going to be like for your immune system.
Exactly. Because our body is not made to be in a constant fight, flight, or stress state.
Flight or fight mode.
Yeah. And generally, when we were young, things happen easier. We get into something stresses out, and then our body just normally goes back into a more relaxed state, and life just goes on.
I beg to differ for nowadays kids, right?
True.
The stress is really overwhelming. The way that when I look at their homework or their curriculum, I'm like in shock, like, huh? You guys are doing all this now. And especially like when I was like interviewing or like when I was like chit-chatting with some of my friends who are in overseas, like, such as other countries. I'm not going to name those countries. You realize that the kids' education nowadays is so stressful. And what do you think about the education system? And can I share that you homeschool your kids?
Sure.
So Rowena is a homeschool mother. And I'm always like finding that fascinating because you're working, right? You're doing your own business, but at the same time, you're homeschooling 2 boys.
Yeah. So
how do you do that?
Not easy. I mean, when I had kids, or even before that, I would never imagine myself homeschooling. Even as they were growing up, that was something that the decision we made as a family because of my eldest son, partly. Because so we wanted to put him in an autism school, and we did a lot of things to try to also get him in. And we even delayed his enrollment because there wasn't placements yet. So we delayed him, and he stayed in kindergarten another year. And then he went into this autism school, mainstream autism school. And initially it was okay, but as we were also doing more in terms of work, like I said, we were doing, at that time, I think we haven't started Spinal Flow yet, but we were already doing other things, other programs for his diet, changing his diet and things like that. And we were seeing improvements. He was more focused, and there was more connection, like eye contact, and he was able to have a longer attention span to do certain things, together in an activity. So one of the challenges for kids with autism, for those people who doesn't know, is that, there are generally verbal communication, non-verbal communication, eye contact, because usually they don't like to look at you, as well as being focused, being in what we call an interactive attention span. That means doing something together with another person, being in an activity together, right? Because they tend to be in their own, they just want to do what they want to do, like they line cars or whatever it is that interests them. Although that's, maybe something typical, but not everyone has the same kind of symptoms or things that they like to do, right? Some spin plates or tear tissue or tear stuff, that they have things that, but they are not doing it together with someone else, doing something together. So the other thing is also flexibility. Sometimes they can't be flexible, meaning that they are very rigid and they want to do things exactly this way. Like even activity during the day, or even going into a lift, pressing all the buttons, otherwise they melt down or something. So sometimes, there's rigidity in a sense, because they want to feel comfortable. So in a way, for me, I've learned a lot more about what autism feels like, and it's not about them, trying to make your life difficult.
Definitely.
But it's just that they are trying to take care of themselves.
Yes. They are actually functioning the way that they see fit themselves, right?
Yes. And a lot of the things they do is actually to help calm themselves. Yeah. So I learned so much more that I feel like more able to accept my child as he is,
who he is.
Yeah, as well as, and not blaming myself.
Oh yes, definitely.
As a parent, as a mom. Yeah, initially there was a lot of, that kind of thing. And it has been a journey to kind of look at, changing my attitude, looking at it from a different perspective. Because most of the time when you have a diagnosis of autism, they tell you it's a lifelong thing.
Oh,
right?
I disagree
and
with
the prognosis is not necessarily good. You don't know whether they're able to take care of themselves, whether they can, have a job or... So at one time, I wasn't even sure if he knows I'm his mommy and whether he could call me, because he wasn't verbal until he was at least 4+. Yeah. And like I said, initially it was very functional. I want something more for meeting his needs. But now he can, talk to people, play with people. There's back and forth conversation, eye contact, and attention span as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I totally disagree that it's going to be like a long-term thing, because I believe that they can improve. They just have to figure out a way themselves, and people around them just have to be patient. And also another thing is, I also do find, because last time I had a chance to volunteer myself in an autistic school, okay, and I realized that actually each and every one of them they have talents. It's just for them or for people around them to maybe to discover it. And I find that they really do have like an amazing personalities.
Yeah. I mean, and they are just generally more trusting. They just feel what they feel, and it's like in fact, one of the things you worry is like they don't know how to lie. But now my son has learned how to lie.
Okay.
So
are you happy with that or not very happy with that?
Well, I mean, from a neurotypical perspective, that's more neurotypical rather than not. Yeah. So to me, it's more towards being...
Okay, yeah. It's like the rigidity has already loosened up, right?
Yes, definitely. So we haven't got to the part where why I decided to homeschool, right?
Yes.
So he was initially doing okay, but in the second year he was having like meltdowns almost every day when he comes back. He starts to scratch and bite and hit, So yeah, I was getting the brunt of it. Yeah, in a sense, after he comes back from school. And we just decided it's not helping him as much, because he was already improving some, and he was trying to connect with some, kids in his own way at that point in time. And he was feeling frustrated. Yeah. And also the teachers, we were in conversation with the teachers and all that. And it's an autism school, so actually the class size is actually smaller than your typical school. So they have I think at that time maybe 10, 11 children to 2 teachers. Yeah. So but because there are other students as well, and they have certain rules which were also not exactly aligned to what we were doing with my son in our program, our home therapy program. So I guess it was confusing for him, and we decided it's not serving him, to have to go to school, right? And we put him up out of school, and we just did what we could from a home context. So we actually work a lot more on improving all the other things like eye contact, verbal, non-verbal communication, flexibility, those things first before working on academics. Because we believe that once we kind of take care of that, then the rest will be much easier to come. Once he is able to get past certain issues with the body, the connections in his body, where the paths are more connected, then it's easier for him to understand things as well and see things and see non-verbal communication and all that kind of thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long has it been?
Quite some time, I think. He's just turned 17.
17.
Today is actually his birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay. Happy birthday. What's his name?
Nicholas.
Happy birthday, Nicholas.
Yeah. So he's 17 now. And
wow.
Yeah,
that's a really long year for you.
It's almost probably 9-10 years.
Yeah. That's really
since
long.
we started on kind of this journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what about like the second child? You do homeschool him as well, right?
So because of my eldest son, we were looking for less academic and more holistic form of education. And we found it in Waldorf pedagogy. So it's a pedagogy that focus more on the arts side of things, like singing, movement, which I now believe builds up those pathways as well, movements.
Oh yes, definitely.
Singing,
dancing,
and all that, and
the body coordinations and stuff.
Yeah. Because movements is also a pre-math skill, right? And there's a lot of things where for kids, even neurotypical kids nowadays, they have issues with primitive reflex integration, and all these are based on movements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because I'm really, really interested in like a homeschool thing.
Yeah.
So can you like just share like how's like a typical week for your kids when you homeschool them?
So we do have like a more or less a fixed schedule. We start at 9 and we finish at 2. So there's a short break in between, and then we have lunch, and then we have another lesson. Yeah. So in Waldorf, we believe in so we do go academic, but in the initial years in Waldorf is more generally less academic, because well, we have passed that stage in a sense when we started, but because in the first 7 years of a child's life, the body's life force is working on building its organs and all that. When you actually kind of use those life force to focus on thinking and learning things from a head perspective, then you're kind of drawing those life force to the head, and then you have less life force in building your organs and your life.
Well, that happens to a lot of adults as well.
Well, I mean, true. But it's more important in the first 7 years of your life, right? And sometimes if you don't get enough of that, I guess your immune system and other things get affected, and it will affect you. Maybe not in the first next few years or next maybe 14 years, but then after that, you'll probably feel it more as you age. Although nowadays things are moving faster. Yeah, aging seems faster.
So just now you mentioned about Waldorf something. So what is that?
So it's like curriculum.
Oh, closer to the mic. I'm just saying.
Sorry.
You can just sit in front a little bit. I'm just wanting to make sure that your sound are being captured.
Okay. It's a curriculum. So it was okay. Let me just go back a step. So it was founded by this man called Rudolf Steiner.
Oh, Rudolf Steiner. Okay, one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for introducing that. Yes.
So because he's involved in a lot of things.
Oh, yes.
Waldorf Education is one of them.
Nice.
Then the biodynamic farming, the anthroposophic medicine.
Yes.
Right. Architectures.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, he is into so many things, and it was like more than 100 years ago.
Rudolf Steiner's fans here, big fans. Okay, cool, go on.
Yeah. But yeah, his work is difficult to understand sometimes. You have to kind of really read.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes a few times.
It's a little bit like esoteric.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But it's amazing that he came up with all this so many years ago.
I know, right?
Yeah. And so in Waldorf, we believe that the education should follow the child's development. So at every stage, it would be catered to that particular age group. Like in the early years, it's generally more play because they learn from playing, right? Yeah. So they don't learn alphabets, numbers yet. They only start learning it from age 7 onwards because their body and also your brain is then ready to start to learn to read. Yeah, reading sentences because your left and right brain is then connected. So it works around a lot of storytelling, and even at different age group. For 7 years old, there are certain stories that cater to their development.
Okay.
And then for 8-year-old, different stories, more about animals and stuff like that. So early 7-year-old, more fairy tale based, then 8-year-old, more related to animals because they start to identify with certain feelings that sometimes we connect with specific animals, for example. And then as they age different, like from 9 or 10, there are different kind of stories. Yeah.
Okay. So if I get it correctly, which means that it's sort of like laying like a very good foundation for the kids, the child's brain development.
Brain and overall, so it's overall health. Because even our lessons are catered towards kind of what we call in Waldorf as breathing in, breathing out. So different parts where you are more, before we start a lesson, we kind of bring the child in to this space so that they are more open to learning. So there are certain activities that we do that encourage that. So as they get older, it could be just mental math, 450 times 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever it is, right? And you do it for a period of time because you then start the brain working. Okay. Yeah. So kind of bring them in to this space to be ready to learn.
Okay.
Then after that, we start the learning part. And then after that, there's like a breathing out where you kind of, then they slowly process it through like the break that I mentioned. Or they do activities that are more, that gives them the mind a break. Like it could be singing, it could be playing music.
Okay.
Or
so
doing something with their hands.
I bet there's no examination.
Yes, we don't, especially in the earliest, I mean, there is no examination that, but we do as they grow older, there are some kind of like quiz or assessments. So we don't kind of like grade them or whatever. It's just more to see where the child is at and what you need to help the child kind of move to the next stage. Yeah.
Okay. So any involvement, like because you are doing it like independently, this education, right? So do you have to like your child do they have to sit in for a government examination?
So So right now, like we are based in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
And so for the younger one, he had to take the PSLE, which is a primary school living examination,
to go to
which
the high
is
school.
equivalent to UPSR
in
Malaysia previously, although now it's no longer.
Yeah, that was our time.
yeah. So that he had to sit for, and a year 4, which is primary 4 exam. So this is kind of to see where they are at. They previously didn't have this. They only
start implementing it.
Not that recently, but when my son started. When at that point in time they had the P4 or the second the.
So in a way, last time they don't need this assessment, but now they need it. So
just for homeschoolers.
Just for homeschoolers,
yes.
But it doesn't affect them. Like it's just like an indication of how well they have been doing. Is that right?
So they want to see where they are at, and
with
then
that system,
if they weren't doing so well, then they will come and see the parents and talk to you, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're paying more extra care as compared to students who are enrolled in a school.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the benchmark for homeschoolers in Singapore is different from people who go to school. For PSLE to pass, you need to be within a certain range. Whereas if you were in school, the band is wider.
Wider.
Yes. Huh? Yes.
So that means they are applying more stricter assessment as compared to people who go to school. It's so discouraging, I must say.
Yeah, it's a little bit, to me, a little bit of a double standard. Although sometimes you understand where they're coming from because they want to know that the parents are doing what they say they are doing, right?
Okay.
They want the child to have an education. But then the part where the band is different to me, that
really is like a double standard. It's just like, I'm just renting it out here. It would be like as if like I'm trying to challenge you because you're challenging my system, my education system. Am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, how do you, that's between the primary school to high school. But what about university? Is there like further education with that education system?
Yeah, definitely. It really depends on there are still quite a lot of homeschoolers in Singapore. Maybe not.
I think it has grown.
Yes.
Especially the last couple of years.
Yes, definitely. But so not not all of them use Waldorf. In fact, many don't. Many use different kind of schooling curriculum. There's some very specific on literature based. Some are more Christian based. Some are more religious based. Yeah. Okay. Some are more towards those route. And you can actually choose to go in because all of them have to take PSLE, right?
Yes.
In Singapore, at least. So that will be your ticket to choose your secondary school.
Okay. Then secondary subsequent that. So that means they have to take what is the test, O-level?
Whatever whatever
to further their studies.
route they choose, because you could actually go and take N level, going to polytechnic and that kind of thing, right?
I see.
But there are many homeschoolers who choose to do IBE. They don't go, they do their own after. That means they continue to homeschool, which we did as well. So you could choose American-based program, Australian-based, UK-based programs to go towards. So you choose those
tertiary education, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I'm very interested in this topic, because we didn't really talk about this topic and we didn't even know that it will show up in our podcast, right? So the reason why I really wanted to find this out is because I myself used to be a kid with learning disability. So which means I wasn't really labeled as like learning kids with learning disability, but I'm always find it like very difficult to understand my school teacher. And everything about academic, like mathematics, like the languages, I'm totally like I have no idea what's going on. So that's why when, during UPSR, right, when during the mock exam, do you know my trial exam is actually 6E, which means I failed almost every subject. Okay, because I have no idea what's going on. I do not know why 2 times 2 equals to 4. And at that point of time, I didn't even feel like I don't feel left out, but more on like I just wonder why people seem to understand, but I couldn't understand. But luckily, I've had amazing memories. So I pull myself through the examination by memorize the answer, by memorizing the way how to get the answer. I know it sounds weird, but that's how I did it. And that's how I ended up with 6 A's because of using that way. And I didn't know how I actually figure out myself on memorizing. It's just that after I got my mock exam results, which is 6E, which I failed all the examination, I just asked my mom for $20. And my mom was like, what do you want it for? Oh, I just want to buy some textbook and reference book. And I just intuitively go to the back answer and figure out, working out my ways to do it. So I guess that everybody actually brains work differently. And I can tell you that even up till when I was in uni, I'm still having the same trouble. But thanks to my memory, I actually put it off. It felt like as if I cheated my primary school, my high school. And also like when I'm in university, I had a lot of like help from the universe, sending people who just happen to know how to teach me to understand that part. Okay, sometimes they just show up in my door. And only when my brain started to open up, like when I have like, aha, I have a brain, was when I start working. So in a way that I'm just wondering, let's say, because in school you only get one type or one way of teaching.
Yes.
Right? So perhaps maybe I was just wondering if ever I was in a different education system or like a different program, would that be much easier for me? Possibly, right?
Yeah.
Because
like, sorry.
Yeah, go on first.
Waldorf, we try to teach things in different ways. Initially, in the earlier years, we use dolls or puppets to act things out so that the child can kind of delve in, go into that imagination of the story. But nowadays, kids don't get that opportunity. Whatever they have images shot at them from the TV or a screen, right? Yeah. So I think it's harder, especially for kids nowadays. But I mean, even for you, right? There are people sometimes learn better with, drawing out certain things. Yeah. When you draw it out, you can see the connection better. Or some people listen by listening. And for some people, it's a combination of some of these things, or even acting certain things out.
Yeah.
So we go through certain things, and then the next day we will review those things that we've learned the day before, and we will use different medium. Like sometimes draw a picture about what we do, or it could be using different things to kind of portray something that you remember about what you've learned the day before. Yeah.
And in fact, I am actually, later on I discovered that I'm actually a more visual person. I learn better through videos or when you draw it out for me. So that I can capture. And in fact, I think 70% of the populations are very visual person. I think only like maybe 20% are audio, which means you can understand what the teacher is trying to say and teach. So I guess what I want to deliver the message is because a lot of people get feeling unworthy, especially based on the academic results. But I would just say academic results, it doesn't represent you at all. It just represents a very tiny fractions of you. Because to me, like while I was growing up, okay, I realized that it's never about academic results or how much you have achieved in life, but more of what sort of person that you have become.
Yes.
I think that's the most important. If let's say if you are so successful but you are a jerk, then like there's no meaning to it, right?
Well, you might not notice it until maybe a bit later, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because to me, I think kids is supposed to enjoy their childhood.
Yes, I mean, so that the reason even for my younger son, who's 14 now, for us, once we discovered Waldorf, and there was a point when we were thinking that was also a point when we just initially pulled my eldest out of school. So there was a decision-making point, and we thought since we are already homeschooling one, why not?
Yeah, you're already doing it anyway, right?
And also, but at that time, I didn't know so much about Waldorf, and although we did take a course on it, but then now as they grow older, it's easier as well, and you can actually get, you buy it this curriculum. They will tell you what to teach, the contents, everything is there.
Okay.
It's just that for Waldorf, especially in the earlier years, the teacher's involvement or the parent, if you're homeschooling, is a lot more. And what I like, I mean, if you do go to Waldorf school, I think in KL there are a few.
Oh, yeah. There are a few Waldorf school.
Oh, in KL, well, in Malaysia at least there are a few. Okay. There's some in Johor, Penang, and KL.
So that means if I want, I can be a Waldorf teacher. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that's possible. Although it's not easy because for Waldorf, the teacher stay with from 7 years old to maybe 12 or whatever. You stay with the child.
Oh,
you have the same. Yes, as they
stay
go
with
older,
the child. You follow the child through. Okay, so it's like a one-on-one.
No, so you would have
also,
maybe
which means you have the same group of people.
Like 20, students. You would be with that same 20 if they stay in that school. Yeah,
Wow.
So you know your students really well. You know their strengths, you know their weaknesses, and you know how to teach them.
Oh, okay. Because you know those kids already. Yeah. Inside out. And can I also just say that, which means the Waldorf school system is part of the homeschool, which means if let's say if the parent who wish to homeschool, but they may not have the resources, say for example, because you are well educated, you know how to learn all these things inside out, right?
It's
yourself.
I'm
right?
still learning.
Yeah, but I mean you can actually send them to this school.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So now
in Singapore, it's not possible because
I don't think they encourage it based on what you have told me about their double standards.
No, well, they don't particularly generally like Waldorf. That's what I understand, at least. There is Waldorf's movement in Singapore. It's just that it's really difficult because teachers can come and go. Plus, for only kids who are non-local will be able to do Waldorf. Because for international school, you can't go into an international school if you're
not a foreigner, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If you're local, then you can't go to international school. I know that's the number one rule for them.
Yes. They may consider on a case-to-case basis if one parent is not Singaporean, or you can tell them you have plans to go back to UK or wherever, and they could give those, but all those are on a case-to-case basis. If both are Singaporean parents, there are parents who tried many times, not more than once, to get into Waldorf school. but they were rejected.
I see. That's sound tough. Maybe they can consider a move to Malaysia. Then they might got a chance.
Yeah.
That jokes aside. Yeah.
Yes, yes, of course.
So maybe because I guess we pretty much cover a lot about homeschool. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about your spinal flow. So how does actually spinal flow works? Because I actually experienced once from Rowena, and really after the session, I really did feel like something have lifted off from my body, like as if the stress is no longer there. So I would say that very moment, it actually put me into like a sort of like a good relaxed sleep or a nap, I would call it. Yeah. So can you tell us more on how it works and how does it actually works?
So spinal flow helps support the body, like I've mentioned, just support the body, facilitate the body to be, to do what it knows how to do. How we do that is just gently touching very specific points in the body.
Okay.
So there are 33 points that we work with, and these points are points that consist of dura mater. So dura mater is the third layer of our brain.
Okay.
It protects our brain like a bubble. And there are points in our body, particularly around the neck area and the sacrum area, where there's a lot of these points. What I do is I feel for the most open access point or dural access point. And what I mean by the most open point or open access point is where there is the most life force or chi or prana, whatever you call it, right? And by just gently touching these points, it helps remind the body of these points.
Okay.
So a lot of the time we feel like, oh, I feel an ache here, a pain there. We focus on those areas. Yeah, we remember those areas. But we don't bring our attention to areas that's actually working very well. Sometimes 90% of our body is actually working very well, or 99% of our body is working very well, but we don't bring our attention to that.
Yeah.
It's just that when I touch your elbow, right, you feel it.
Yes.
Right? Even if you touch your elbow, you feel the point that you touch.
It's just like sometimes like people tend to forget about their heart, but once they touch their heart, then
they
suddenly
feel it
remember,
beating.
I got a heart.
Yeah. So when just touching that area reminds the body, you know, oh, hey, look here. Yeah. There's a lot of things that's working very well here. And just by doing that, it just prompts the body to then grow that.
Use that resources.
Yes,
right?
use that resources and spread it.
Okay.
Right? So then your body naturally go more into a relaxed mode. Of course, I use a massage bed to help get the body into a neutral spine position. Because a lot of the times we are either standing or we're sitting and
bad.
our spine is not in a virile.
Yes, not meant to sit for that long.
Exactly. And we put a lot of stress on our spine that way. So the thing about the spine is it's not only the kind of like a physical structure that connects your brain to the rest of your body, right? Because your brain connects to the spine, and from the spine, your nerves comes out, right, and connects to different parts of your body, your fingers, right?
Yep.
Your organs, your endocrine system. So it's not only in spinal flow, we believe it's not only a physical structure that facilitates communication between your brain and the rest of your body, but it is also like a channel of energy flow. Yeah, and communication between your mind, heart, and body.
Yep.
Yeah, as well as spirit, of course.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So when you let that energy flow, and by touching these points, it helps facilitate that. It then helps you become more aware of your body, So most of my clients will say that after they've done spinal flow, they are more aware of their sitting position of their and their posture. So instead of kind of sitting for too long, they kind of feel, it's a bit stressful. Then they start to move
around
more. So one of the most important things that I share with my client is just move more.
Yes,
Have movement breaks. Yes.
Because we're designed to move, not sit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And this reminds me of, because when describe it, right, it reminded me of a yoga practice of, sun salutation, where you keep moving your spine. And seriously, when you feel the heat of that spine flowing, you do really feel good about it. That's my feedback for that sun salutation.
So sun salutation, you also have like a downward dog, right?
Downward dog.
Where you have...
And then you do the chaturanga, into the positions of chaturanga.
Yes. So you have the down and up, which kind of it
flows.
Yes. But so, I mean, in a way, you want downward because the gravity of going downwards also help move things from your hips towards your head, which you don't get often.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're standing most of, or you're upright most of the time. And then you do that opposite motion, right? And that lengthen your spine. Which we don't normally do. We can always do this to get that extension, but it's not something that we do normally if we don't.
Our position is just this, like that, and not like really moving. That's why I figure a lot of people have back issues or neck issues because of the position that we are always at, especially in front of a camera, in front of a computer. Or like now we have a mobile phone, we are always like that. Right. And there goes the neck. Or either you are lying on the bed with your elbows, checking out your phone and stuff like that. It's really, really, really not helping the body at all.
Exactly.
So it's like if you not really like a workout person, spinal flow maybe it's like equivalent, like getting that flow out, right?
So I guess another way of putting it is like helping your body go into a meditative state.
Oh yes, definitely. That's why I like yin yoga. Yin yoga is like, seriously, it's like, because like when your muscles are in the most relaxed manner, your spine actually aligned. And that's very important, right? And when your spine aligned, everything just seems okay, like there's no ache and pain. But of course, there's also some aches and pains are coming, or like alarm system from some of your organs, right? Because our body is very well connected in that way. So, and maybe let me just top it up with like what theta healing talk about skeletal system, right? And the nervous system, right? Is, like there's a saying called like, in our top of our head, there's a crown chakra. And there's actually what they call it like a spiritual tuning fork. Okay. So it's like, it's part of your skeletal system. Okay. So it's all connected. And for the nervous system is, because your nervous system is pretty much not only how you react to the outside influences, but it has a lot to do with how you read the information from the outside to make the correct reaction. So with a balanced nervous system, you're more balanced of a person. You know how to survive better without much stress, right? But also it affects your internal function, right? Because when you are more on a stress state or chronic stress state, then your adrenaline level is higher, your always
cortisol level is always high. And then what about your other hormones? Does it get a chance to get released or regulate, right?
No, I don't think so.
Digestion becomes an issue because when you're in this state, so that's our primitive reaction to a threat. Our body wants to be able to run or hide or fight, right? If you can fight whatever it is. So what happens to our body? Our body, the blood flow goes to your muscle because you want to be able to fight,
yes,
right?
and no resources to other place.
Exactly. That means it will put digestion, repair, regeneration
Into a hole.
reproduction into okay, this is not so urgent because you need to survive first.
Run away from the tiger first.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes, a lot of the times when you are in this chronic fight-flight state, you don't sleep well as well.
Oh, yes.
You get you wake up in the middle of night and you find it difficult to get back to sleep. So it affects a lot of things in your body. Your hormones, your circadian rhythm all gets out of balance. Yeah. So then all your organs are also then out of balance.
Yeah. Imagining when you talk about the digestive systems are put on hold, right? 90% of our serotonin is produced from the digestive system. And there goes your happy hormones.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and nowadays, because of the way we live, right, we are rushing from place to another. Even the way we eat is very stressful, right?
Oh, yes.
We are looking at our emails or, we are eating.
And I did realize that recently that even because I don't check my emails like that often anymore. And in fact, even last time when I was in corporate, I don't really check my email. Okay, don't tell my ex-bosses, okay, about that. But I also did realize that I do not know is it because of the outside influence or what, but when I tend to have like a bowl of hot food in front of me, there's an urge for me to quickly finish it up. And I think that's really bad. I just realized it. Oh my God, I have that. Like, why am I in a rush? Why can't I just eat slower?
That happens for parents as well. You kind of learn to eat faster because in case...
Quick, I need to clear up the plates. Right.
Yeah. Not only that, right? Because especially when your child is young, right? They demand more. They may cry for whatever.
Half an hour before they get their food.
Exactly. So you learn to also eat faster because of the way our life is. But that's not very good, like you said, rightly said, very bad for our digestion.
Yes.
So chewing is a very, very much chewing and even looking and smelling the food is the first part of digestion, the cephalic phase of digestion, where your digestive enzymes get released from your pancreas, and the digestive juices in your stomach gets released as well. So if you skip this step and you really rush through eating, 20 or 30% of your digestion is being put back because you're not having enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach to digest and kind of pull out the nutrients from the food. And then you do not have enough digestive enzymes, and also chewing helps release serotonin as well, which then it helps the whole process, right?
Yep.
So if you're skipping all this step, then you're putting yourself, as in your digestion is lower, and if you have other stressors, then it can get worse.
I think being able to enjoy your food is actually a good thing, even though the food is bland or something like that, right?
In fact, if you chew more, you taste more.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like when you taste wine and then you put longer. You need to swirl it in your mouth to get it.
Because our taste bud is around the tongue. It's not at one point. Yeah.
Good. So our podcast is coming to an end, and I have like a couple of like thankfulness that I want to give out. First of all, I'd like to thank Rowena for coming for this session and podcast. And because of this podcast, it actually turns out way better than I have actually expected. Because after this, I'm going to research right away about Waldorf method, because I'm always very interested in finding alternative ways or any other ways to learn. Because as a kid who used to have a learning disability, I know how that feels like. And I'm really, really happy that I have gathered so many valuable information today. And I bet it actually helps a lot of you out there who are interested in finding out more about homeschool. And also thank you so much for sharing what Spinal Flow is and how we can actually share some of the tips that we can actually do it in our day-to-day life, okay, in this stressful environment. And any last couple of things that you want to share with the audience before we close this podcast off?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me for this podcast. I really enjoyed the session talking about things that I'm passionate about. And the thing is, there are actually many things that you can do to just release your stress without, seeking help from other people. Just being aware is the first step. And like sunlight, drinking enough water, just focusing on eating your food, chewing your food. Those are just very,
tiny little things.
Yes,
will help.
So simple to do that anybody can do it. You don't really need to take time off from your work or anything to just do something like that for yourself. Yeah, because you are important.
Okay, good. So thank you. And where can people find you? You can actually tell the audience.
So I have my own practice called Real Ease at trease.com.
Okay. So we'll put on the link in case you couldn't find it.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess thank you for another round for Let's Chat Healing. 一起来疗愈. So I think we'll see you guys soon on our next podcast.
Thank you.